Hey everyone, welcome to Pickleball and Beyond. My name's Ryan.
My name is Vino.
And today we are looking at the Glory Pickleball Glory, which we are calling the Legacy Disciple. So Vino, let's hear your initial thoughts on the Glory.
Overall, a very simplistic design.
Yes.
Just one branding. I am still trying to debate if there is like kind of a paint coat on this surface. Even when you clean it, it doesn't feel like a raw carbon fiber. It feels like there is something else there.
Yep.
The grip is pretty good.
Yep.
Just a few quality controls, and I know you want to touch on it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll touch on it. You could see kind of like where they had to put some adhesive. We'll show in the video a close up, but where you can see like the white strip kind of sticking out, and it feels like you could just peel it right off of there.
Yeah.
I mean, not that you should be picking at it, but the fact that it kind of sticks out a little bit, I think they could have, can work on tucking that in a little bit. But the rest of the construction of the paddle, I would say, definitely meets the standards. But coming in at an MSRP of only $120.
Comes with a
nice case
as well. Yeah.
You can't tarp on it too much, but those are just some things they could improve on.
Yeah. So how would you categorize this? What kind of a paddle would this be?
So I would definitely call this 16 millimeter paddle a hybrid paddle with just a smidget more in the power department, just a little bit, but it's definitely a hybrid paddle. Good in all aspects of the game. Not like it's heavily leaning towards the control or heavily towards the power. It's just safer to throw it in that middle category.
So let's go straight from the power side. How did you feel this played at the baseline as far as power goes? Yeah, let's go from there.
I would say I'd categorize it as it gets the job done and maybe a smidget more. It can generate a decent amount of power, but it's still, when I'm using it, I hit a nice drive and be like, okay, it still feels like it's a 16 millimeter thick paddle where I can generate a good amount of pace on the ball, and same as like my overhead smashes. Definitely feel like I can put away most points, but it wasn't something where if you're using it in a game, nobody's gonna be like, "What paddle is that? Holy smokes!" It was just like almost about what I was expecting.
Yeah, and it's very interesting, and that's the reason we call it like the disciple of the Legacy, because it played a little bit like a mini Legacy, right? The way it came out of the paddle.
Yeah, the way it has a slight pop to it.
Yes,
and that's why it reminded me so much of the Legacy Pro, where that Legacy, it has this extra where you can feel some dwell on it, but it also feels like it has a lot of pop to it.
Yes.
In an interesting nature.
It's funny, the Legacy Pro comes at a swing weight about 120. This actually comes at about 118. So very similar there. So let's go into your kitchen line and your control. What are your thoughts there?
So for me, what I was a little disappointed in was, you touched on it a little bit earlier, was the sweet spot on the Glory. I feel like that's the part that was kind of holding it back a little. So I'm gonna actually step back. Instead of starting at the kitchen, I'm gonna start with the resets, where that sweet spot really shined, where you have less time to really line it up perfectly. That's where I think, if you hit it pretty centric, it did actually a pretty nice job, where it was a good balance of it. Felt like it took it, but it also was very controllable. But as soon as you deviated from that middle, then it was kind of tough, inconsistency. Some balls would go, pretty short on you. I mean, nothing like ridiculous, but you could definitely feel that sweet spot would take its effect.
And it's really funny, and like when just listening to you, and I was facing you when you were doing the resets, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like the sweet spot is rectangular, right? If you go to the edges, you miss it. Right? And so you feel that inconsistency, right? So lots of it, like it's kind of circular. But and I felt like that was kind of very similar to how the Legacy played as well, right? Like you can come even a little bit lower on you and still get like a decent push, but as soon as you go to the edges, it feels, so you feel very inconsistent, right? So it's kind of a really unique kind of a play.
And comparing it to the Legacy a little bit more. So one thing I like about the Glory is I'd say the weight, like as far as your swings, feels a little more balanced. Depends what you're looking for. The Legacy is definitely noticeably a little more head heavy, but just the way it came off really reminded us of the Legacy. But going back at the kitchen line, that's where I felt like, okay, from a control perspective, it felt pretty nice actually. It has that nice dwell time. You can put those backspin on your dinks, keeping it close to the net. It did a pretty good job at that. And from the kitchen line, I actually liked the way it played. If someone were to speed the ball up at you, then it actually you know, it felt pretty good there. It's a little different resetting from the kitchen line versus when you're all the way back working on it.
And I felt exactly the same. It absorbed really well. Like if you were standing up in front and trying to, you know, defend, it was really good.
Yeah.
Right. But when you backed up a little bit, like there was a little bit inconsistency on how it kind of played as far as the reset.
Yep. And same as hitting those third shot drops. So that it led to that same the sweet spot piece where sometimes it could be a little tougher if it's a really challenging ball trying to hit that third. But if you had a lot of time, you know, hit the ball in a good spot, then the third shot drops felt pretty nice.
So let's just touch on who do you think this pedal will work for?
So I think it ties into the price point.
Yep.
At the $120 mark.
Exactly.
For that, if you're looking just for something that's, you know, pretty well rounded, the ball comes off really nice. Like I said, the only point where I was disappointed on this was once again that sweet spot part of it. And as a beginner, you might not have, you know, all of the skills to always hit it perfectly in the center. So that's the only part that scares me a little bit. But it's still something that I think if I were to give the paddle more time, it's something you could maybe feel out, get accustomed to. But outside of that, I think, you know, anyone just looking for a well-rounded game, this paddle
and I think one thing that I would add to what you said, Ryan, is this comes at 7.8. So it's a lower weight.
Yes, that's a
so
great point.
this would be like a really great paddle for you to buy and kind of customize. Like put some weights around, see where you want that, right? Because I think with that lower weight, you really can try to balance your paddle. So this is a really good upgrade kind of a paddle where you want to see how do you want to kind of set your paddle up, because lots of the better paddles already come at a higher weight. So then balancing it out becomes really a challenge.
Yeah, I will say for that weight, I think it could be good also then for somebody looking for a lower weight. And for what it provides at that weight, then it's, you know, it's actually reasonable to be like, okay, it had a fair amount of power, especially for that weight, and the control, like I said, it feels very nice. It's just that sweet spot part. Maybe you can try tinkering around with that a little bit.
I would almost say, hey, you just put a little bit of lead on the two sides, almost even bring it a little bit lower, like closer to your throat, or like even on these, like the 9 and the 12, the 9 and the 3. And I really think this will be a very interesting paddle.
And let's hear about the spin on this paddle. You touched on the surface a little bit, how you feel like it might be painted on there. How did that translate into the spin?
I think it still had good spin, right? Not again, it just played a little bit less than the Legacy, notch or two.
In terms of spin, it definitely was a few notches less than the Legacy. But that's where we, you know, keep comparing it to like a baby Legacy, where your trade-offs are, yes, it definitely gets a notch or two less in power. The control, it's kind of similar in some regards. And then the spin's definitely a few notches less, but you're saving $30, and it's also, you know, readily available. Where the Legacy might have some shipping issues. There's plenty of delays.
Kind of So I think this is one of those that you're going to enjoy customizing, playing around with. You know, it plays very, very interesting. You get what I mean? We enjoy playing with this. If you want to try it out in the southern Minnesota area, please reach out to us. You can demo it. Please subscribe, comment. We love hearing from you. It helps our channel, and hope to see you at another paddle review. Thank you.